Hey, what is going on everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario, and in this video we're going to be covering something pretty cool and I guess a little bit of an update in regards to not only the application but things that we can do with this as well too. If you have a jailbroken PlayStation 4, I'm going to be showing you all how you can create and really repackage PlayStation 1 games as fake package files to run on the PlayStation 4 through emulation. So we've covered this with PS1 games already, PS2 games of course, and even PSP games like you're seeing right here. So of course having some cool PS1 games such as Bloody Roar or even Grand Theft Auto 2. I was about to say Extermination, but no, not that. Good game though, but just on PlayStation 2. Having these games here has been a thing that we've been able to do for a few years on a jailbroken PlayStation 4. However, there's two things with this updated version of PSX FPKG I've wanted to cover. One of them being multi-disc game support, which has been added in, and another one being the new emulator from PlayStation Plus that has been added in as well too, adding enhanced compatibility and extra features on top of that. So even if you have some of these older PS1 games, it might be worth revisiting them or checking them back out under this new emulator. But one big draw for me at least is having that multi-disc support. So you are going to need a few things to get started here. First of all, you are going to need your jailbroken PlayStation 4, and you'll need to know the basics of how to navigate it, cover all of that, and of course run Goldhen preferably. You're also going to need a USB drive or some way of transferring package files and installing them on the PlayStation 4, and you're also going to need a Windows-based computer for the application that we're going to be downloading and running. So with all that, let's go ahead and move over to our PC and I'll show you what we need. All the links for all the software and such will be down below in the description, but first you're going to need PSX FPKG by Jabu. Now you can download this from PSX Place, and there is some great instruction here that you can check out. Of course, there's a few gotchas such as libcrypt support being added in here, and it was tested at least with a version of Soul Reaver. Just seeing a few other options such as what Emulate Analog Stick for 60Hz do, as well as the changelog to everything that's been added in here. One of them of course being the new PS Plus PS1 emulator, and just some other really nice options. I'll kind of do a basic showcase of this, but if you want some more granular detail, I would recommend giving this a read as well as the README that's attached. To download this, you can just click on download now and download it from the page that it brings up. Now I'll also show you how to back up your own PS1 games based on discs. If you have those already and need to back them up, you of course will need a CD drive, DVD drive, or Blu-ray drive on your computer. I'm going to be using something called ImageBurn, which works pretty well for me with Windows to generate the bin-queue images that we will need. As always, I do like to highlight this page as well too, which has thankfully gotten some more love. This is from the PS Dev Wiki, specifically the PS4 Dev Wiki, and this is the PS1 Classics Emulator Compatibility list, which is exactly as it says right here. Now this is great for a couple reasons. One, you can see games which are already on here, have been tested, and just the compatibility that you can see on these. So for example, if you want to try Alone in the Dark, the new Nightmare, you can see that the NTSC U version seems to be playable, but the PAL version seems to be unplayable. The other reason why this is great is, well, guess what? If you want to check this out yourself, and if you want to even contribute to it, it is more than welcome to do that. So if you try out some games that have some better results, you can certainly update them, or if you even try games that haven't been added on here, you can always add those yourself, and that is actually quite encouraged on here. So there's going to be a few games that I'm going to be trying. Lastly, if you're having trouble extracting PSX FPKG from the archive that has been provided, you can download and install 7-zip, which should be easy enough to install and get you up and running with extracting the file. So here we go. It should give you a PSX FPKG 7-zip file, which if you have 7-zip installed, you can right click, go to 7-zip, and extract to its own folder. I'm going to open up this folder, and inside of here we have another PSX FPKG folder and a readme.txt. Now the readme file, again, I would recommend giving this a quick once over and review just because it's quick enough and it does have some really great information on here. But once you read through this, we can go ahead and check out PSX FPKG itself. You can come in here, go to PSX FPKG, the executable file, open it up, and there we go. Now, if you need to know how to back up your games, I'm going to show you that real quick right now. If you want to continue on with this, you can just go to the next section of this video. But to back up our own games, let's go ahead and use ImageBurn. Now, once you have ImageBurn downloaded and installed, you will of course need a CD or DVD or Blu-ray drive hooked up to your computer. Make sure you pop your PS1 disc in there. For this example, I actually popped in my copy of Silent Hill, and you can click on Create Image File from Disk. Now make sure your drive has been highlighted. It's checking everything out here, and as you can see, it's loaded everything up as needed. So my read speed, I typically just set to max, and then for the destination, you're going to want to pick where you want to save this. Now, I already have a few games that I've backed up here previously, but you're going to want to pick where you want to save your ISO or just your disk image, because it's not going to be an ISO directly. You will need it to be in bin.q format. So make sure you select bin files, and then you can call your file whatever you want to on here. Usually you can just call it something like Silent Hill, like the game name, or whatever else you might want there. You can click on save. I've already saved it there, of course. I'll just call it one word here, Silent Hill. That should work out well enough. So there we go. Once we have that all set up, you can click on this button here to read, and give it a few minutes to rip this over to your computer. Now this is going to take a bit longer than I'm wanting to here, so I'm just going to cancel out of this, say yes, and that's all good. Of course, it is going to create a file wherever you've saved it to, but like I said, I've already backed this game up before, so I'm not too concerned about this one. I'm going to cancel out of this for now, but either way, that is how you can back up your games. I do have a few of them inside my PS1 folder, so here's just some examples. I do have a couple of single disc games with Silent Hill and Driver, and then I have some multi-disc games with Driver 2 and Xenogears. So I'm going to be doing 3 tests here, even though you do see 4. I will explain it in a bit. Either way, once you're in your PSX FPKG folder, you can just launch the PSX FPKG application, and it should look a little something like this. Now, just as a quick overview here, this has been one of the biggest changes right off the bat. You can utilize up to 4 discs in your configuration because this new emulator does allow for multiple discs, unlike the original one, which was only 1 disc at a time per package file. We can of course also add our own custom art, NP title. We're not going to be touching any of that yet though. So this is mainly just to get your games added in there. For game configuration, if there's any type of custom configurations in text or Lua files, these can be added in here, but I'm not going to be messing with any custom configurations on here. As for the scale, it seems like the default seems to be 6. I'm going to be keeping it to that, and then these are miscellaneous options that you can enable or disable. So skipping the boot logo, emulating analog sticks, forcing 60 Hz. This one might be useful on some PAL games if you have them, and emulating the analog sticks is really for games that only support the digital controller, not the actual like analog controller for the original PlayStation. Skip boot logo is pretty self-explanatory there. And finally, an about section with all the credits here, with credits to Jabu for coding this, CYB1K for the PlayStation HD emulator release, and Goatman 13 and Archie for the support. So let's go ahead and check this out now. First of all, just to make a simple build of a game, we can do a single disc game. So I'm going to pick Silent Hill for this. You can click on select, navigate over to where your games are at, grab the Q file for your bin.q file formatted game. And from here, if you want to add in anything extra, so as you can see, the NP title and the title have already been pulled. If you want to add an icon and a splash screen, that is optional, but I'm going to do that just to make mine look a little pretty. So you can grab images really just off of Google or any other image source that you can find for these preferred images. For these ones, I just grab them off of Google Images, but I'm going to use this for my icon, and for the splash screen, I'm going to use this right here. From here, just click on Create FPKG. Usually I just pick the same folder that the game itself is in, click on OK, and wait for this here. At some points it might look like it is frozen like it is right now, but don't worry about that, just let it do its thing. Oh, there we go, all done. Now what I recommend is once these are done, anytime you build out a FPKG, if you want to build out another one, just actually close out of PSX FPKG. We can come over to our PS1 folder, and right here I do have the package file for Silent Hill. Perfect. Now let's try out a multi-disc game. For this example, I'm going to use Xenogears. So this is a 2-disc game. For disc 1, you're going to select the disc 1 image. Might have to wait a bit. And there we go, disc 1 is loaded up. Now for any other discs that you have, you will have to change this option here manually. So we need 2 discs, select disc 2, and there we go. Disc 1, disc 2, easy enough. It looks like this all has been selected here, but for the NP title, I am just going to keep this to disc 1, but for the actual title here, I'm going to edit this to simply Xenogears. Now again, icon and splash, it's up to you if you want to add these in. I have downloaded some cool looking images, at least I think they're cool looking, so going to grab this here and this for the splash screen. If you want to make any changes to the game config, you're welcome to here, but if you're happy with your selection, click on Create FPKG and just do the same thing as before. Hit OK. This one might take a little bit longer, but that's to be expected. Since we're all done, just like before, I'm going to click OK, close out of here, go into my folder, and check this out. We do have a PKG file for our Xenogears. So we're all good on that. Now I'm going to do one more test here. We're going to do something a little bit crazy but cool at the same time. Now you can combine up to 4 discs, but check this out, it doesn't have to be the same game. So for example, if you want to combine different games into one single package, like if you want them to all use the same memory card, you can certainly do that here as well too. Or if you just want to have a nice big game pack. Now the example I'm going to use, check this out. I'll go to select, come back out, and I'm going to load up the first disc of the original driver, but I kind of want to create a driver pack. So we have this here. Might take a little bit to load this in. There we go. Now I'm going to change the discs to 3 because I'm also going to go in here, load up driver to disk 1 and driver to disk 2. These are just the disk IDs, and this is just how I named it when I was ripping everything. But either way, these are 2 different games right here that we're going to pack into the same package file. Now for this, I'm going to pick an icon, and the cool thing is, this actually did get a retail release in the form of a driver twin pack, so I found this to be pretty fitting. I'm going to grab that. I didn't find a splash screen that I liked, but that's okay. So once we have that all set up here, we can also adjust the NP title if needed. This one might be a little bit odd just because this is technically going to be kind of accurate, but not really. I'm not going to change the NP title here. I will, however, change the title to Driver Collection, something like that. I think that would be fine, or Driver 1 and 2, whatever it might be. I think that's fitting as well too. Either way, once we have this to our liking, yet again, we can click on Create FPKG and pick wherever we will save this. I'll just put it in the first driver folder. Hit OK. Now, the only disappointing thing here is this is really nice for convenience. Unfortunately, this is not going to be an example where the save files are really going to do anything special between games. Like, for example, if you put Metal Gear Solid with Castlevania in here and you have a save on Castlevania, when you get to that Psycho Mantis fight on Metal Gear Solid, it will be able to give you that nice little Easter egg asking if you do play Castlevania. However, we're not going to do that here. We're more just doing this for convenience, but I did want to show you this just so you all can see that you can combine up to 4 different games in one package file. So with all that created, close out of here, and just like before, in here, we do have a pack of 2 games with 3 discs in one. So let's go ahead and get these fake package files installed. Now you will of course need a USB drive or some other way of transferring these package files over to your system. To me, a USB drive just works fine enough here. I do have a USB drive plugged in. You will have to make sure, since you're on PS4, it is formatted to either FAT32 or exFAT. This one's going to work for us. But either way, you're just going to copy your package files to the root of the USB drive. So for this here, easy enough. I'm just going to go into driver, copy this out, paste it right here, and I'll go ahead and load up the other 2 as well. So we got Silent Hill, which is going to be our single game, and Xenogears, which is going to be a 2-disc game. We got about 3 GB to transfer over, so I'll just go ahead and give that some time. Perfect, so now with all of these transferred over, we can just come back out here, right click, eject our USB drive, and take it over to our PS4. Over at your PlayStation 4, you're going to want to make sure you've already run the Goldhin payload, or whichever payload you're going to be loading here, to at least give us the option to install package files. Now, with that all being said, we can come back up to settings. If you're using Goldhin, you can come up to Goldhin, Package Installer, and just, well, install all the packages if you're going to be installing multiple. And here we go. We should have all 3 of them installed. So with that, you can press the PlayStation button and check it out. We do have something that looks great here. We have our driver twin pack, we have Silent Hill, and we have Xenogears. Let's go ahead and check out some of the new options of the emulator here through our single disc game Silent Hill. Now, compared to the old emulator, this one shows us where start and select would be, so we can press start to boot this up. So here we go. Despite all the compression and everything, and that's just, you know, the age of the game and such, the initial FMV is looking great so far. I'll go ahead and hit start here. Everything seems to be working, at least in regards to booting this up, but yeah, sure, easy, why not? Let's give this a shot. Of course, we have that lovely PlayStation 1 dithering, just that iconic look right here, but so far this is looking good. I'm happy with the result, at least. Alright, now while chasing after Cheryl, let's go ahead and check these options here. So we can quite literally press the options button, and it brings up some new stuff here. If you've seen this from my PSP emulator video, well, the new one here, this shouldn't be too much of a surprise, but check this out. You can choose to rewind your gameplay if you want to. You can also go to load and save here if you want to create save slots, or even, well, save state, or even load up a new one. So I can go ahead and create a new one right there, for example. We can also just hit triangle here to create a quick save state, but also we can go into settings and see what else is new. So for the visual preset, we have the default look. Let's check out the retro classic here. Alright, so this kind of gives it more of a scanline look. That's not all too bad. And not that, we're also going to check out modern. I'm assuming this will probably just smooth it out a little bit. I don't see too much of a difference here, but that's just because of kind of the effect Silent Hill has visually on this. Either way, I will not rewind on that. I'm just going to go back to the default mode. And okay, it looks like, I guess with Modern One, it makes it a little bit darker as well too. But back here, we can also go to video. We can change these as well, so you can get a 1:1 aspect ratio, 4:3 for 16:10. That's good for people using monitors. 16:9, which would be for most people. Square pixels and wide zoom if you want to do that. And for the controls, well, it just shows you the controls right here. Simple enough. So all in all, some pretty cool options on here, but even if you don't use those extra options, the nice thing is this emulator does have nicer compatibility and such just in the background here. So like I said, even if you have PlayStation 1 games that you've been messing around with on the PlayStation 4 here, it might be worth checking them out again through this new updated emulator. Either way, let's see what happens here. This is always a fun time.
What is this? What's going on here?
So there we go. I think that was a cool intro to run through here and pretty fitting for this test. Silent Hill seems to be running just fine for the most part, so I'm pretty happy with this. Now let's go ahead and check out some of the other games. For a multi-disc game, so let's just take Xenogears for example. This is one game, but it has 2 CDs. Let's go ahead and launch this. Seems to launch just fine, and I'll show you about the same thing here. Alright, so we've got Xenogears running here. As you can see, this is just the initial start here, but it looks, in my opinion, pretty solid for what this is. This does look quite nice. I'm happy to see this as well too. Now of course this is a 2-disc game, so I will show you how to access those multiple discs. Now to do that, you'll of course need to press the options button, and from here press options. And if you set this up correctly, you should have an option here for change disc. Now from here, we're on disc 1, you can select disc 2, and the idea typically would be on these PlayStation games, you would get to a point where you would have to save your game to the memory card on the game itself, and then you would have to change to another disc. So assuming that you've made your save, you can select your next disc, which would be disc 2. Here it's going to ask if we want to change this. All unsaved progress will be lost, so say yes. And now it is kind of going to reboot the game, or I guess soft reboot it in a way, because it's essentially just closing out of that first disc and then relaunching everything from disc 2 right here. And as you can see, we're able to boot this as well. Now I'm not going to be able to continue on this unfortunately, because I do not have a save pointing to disc 2 here, but that is just how you do that, just to show you all. So again, if you are going to be playing a game such as Metal Gear Solid or Fear Effect, which does require multiple discs, you will just have to save in-game, and then once you save in-game, you're going to press the options button, change disc, make sure you change your disc over, and then once it all has booted up, you're going to load up that save game in the game itself. Now I'm going to close out of Xenogears, and our last one is going to be the twin pack of driver games that I've done here, or for any other example. This is an example here of the default splash screen if you do not utilize the change there. We're going to press start to continue on, and by default it should just load up disc 1, so that is going to give us the original driver game. We do have that right here, of course. It is booting up and all that good stuff. So like I said, there's a couple of reasons for having these bundled package files right here of multiple games. Well, one of them could be just for convenience, another could be if you just want to put multiple games from a series into one package file, you can do that. Or also if you want to do some little like unlockable bonuses, like I said with Metal Gear Solid, it does have that feature where if you've played a game like another Konami game such as Castlevania and you have that on your same memory card, when you get to that Psycho Mantis fight, it is going to show a reference to that, a pretty, famous one at that point. So what I'm saying there is, if you bundle Metal Gear Solid with Castlevania, play a bit of Castlevania, then play Metal Gear Solid up to that point, you will be able to unlock that and utilize that save data to get to that Easter egg or that little bonus. Now we do have this loaded up running here and everything, which is definitely cool to see. However, what we can do here is if we want to change this up, of course, it's going to be the same thing. Let's say I've loaded this up and I want to play Driver 2. I've had enough of the first one. Simply press the options button, change disk, and then select the disk you want to load up. For me, it would be disk 2. Let's go ahead and wait a bit. Now here we go. It did take us several seconds to get started, but this is Driver 2 running off of the same package file. So we are all good in that regard. Really happy to see this here. So, like I said, we now have multiple games in one package. And if you are getting to the point in Driver 2 where you need to get to disk 2, you just save your game, press options, go to change disk, load up the second disk for Driver 2, which in this case would be disk 3, and then you're going to load your save from here. And by save, I mean an actual game save within the game itself, like you would go to load game and load this from your memory card, which mine doesn't have anything here. You're not going to be loading a game save from the quick saves here. It would all have to be in game, like you're playing on an actual PlayStation console. So there we go. That's about it for this video here. I guess as a final note on this as well too, I have mentioned saves and memory cards a few times, and that is to say that each of these package files is individualized. So by that I mean whenever you save a game on Silent Hill, for example, you're not going to be able to access or see that game from Xenogears. Just like if you make saves on Xenogears, you're not going to be able to access or see them on Driver or Driver 2. However, Driver and Driver 2 will be able to access their saves if they have that functionality because they're going to share the same memory card. Essentially, each of these package files has their own set of memory cards, so to speak. Just to explain that last bit there. Anyways, with all of that being said and shown, that is about it for this video. I hope you all liked it. I hope you all enjoyed it. And I hope you all got to really get some extra enjoyment out of seeing how far the original PlayStation emulation has come on the PlayStation 4. It was nice to revisit this and see the cool new effects and such, and even just the compatibility on here. Really love seeing it, especially with the multi-disc support. That's something I have wanted for a while, but it was just a limitation on the original emulator that we couldn't really add in. Either way, that is about it for this video here. This Mr. Mario, signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, a like would absolutely be appreciated, and if you didn't like it, a dislike is fine as well too.